All my money.
Well, anyway, I was going to the National Guard, went to guard camp in Rapid City in my freshman year, and up at Camp Ripley, Minnesota in my sophomore year. And that time they froze. The war was starting to build up. It would be 41. So they mobilized the National Guard that next year. And so in the middle of my junior year, we got mobilized and went to join.
You got in on the ground floor.
Right on the ground floor. This was about a year before Pearl Harbor now, and went to Louisiana for camp, for training, and the 34th Division. I was with the combat engineers of the 34th Division. And of course, ended my school career, and then with that, just about the time we were going to get discharged in that fall, while they extended the recruitment at the time we were mobilized, and of course Pearl Harbor came along on December 7th, and happened to be that morning I was sitting in my cot sewing on my sergeant's stripes when they announced Pearl Harbor. Well, I sewed a little faster.
If I'd known you could sew, think of the time I could.
And so we were fully trained, I guess, being a National Guard division, and they shipped us right out. We went, well, before Christmas, we were up at Fort Dix in tents in the winter and burning down a tent or two of the old stoves. And part of the division shipped out early January, and the rest of us shipped out in February. But for Northern Ireland, then those were the first troops over in the European theater, and we started in February, but our ship broke down after some wild experiences and some depth charges going off around it, lights getting knocked out. We came back into Halifax, Nova Scotia, and had to catch the next convoy, so we didn't get to Ireland until April, I think, April or May. Spent the summer in Ireland, and when they invaded North Africa in the fall, then the division was involved in that. And again, I wasn't on the first wave, but it came in then to Oran and trucked up to Tunisia, and then fought in the Tunisian campaign. And in fall of 40, during the winter of 42, 41, or 42, 43. And got shot up a little Kasserine Pass and some messes there, but our division took a lot of beatings. Again, we skated through. We lost our battalion lost some guys. After the campaigns there, we skipped the Sicilian campaign and went into Italy then in the fall of 43.
And that's when you had your appendicitis attack.
Among other things, yeah. I was a staff sergeant. I got made staff sergeant in Ireland. And
he has a funny story to tell about that.
Well, okay, this was during the next winter. Then we moved up through past Naples. We came into Salerno, moved up past Naples and up into the Costa Valturno River, and finally got into Cassino in that next in the winter. That's where we had real heavy combat. It was most vicious combat there. Lost a lot of people. Cassino Division did.
Monte Cassino is this huge abbey on the top of an enormous rock. It's got to be several thousand feet high. It's just incredible. It's hard to believe that men could assault up that rock and survive. And most of them didn't.
No, most of them didn't. Our division lost 2,500 men in that one battle, but we lost more than that altogether. We've been losing them all along, so we weren't even full strength at that point. We went over a couple of mountains to get there.
But tell about.
Well, this is after during the winter. Then we were relieved, and the 8th Army tried to break it through, and they couldn't. And there were a couple of divisions, and they tried another time or two, and they couldn't break through that. So they tried to do an end run, and they started Anzio beach landings. And some other troops did the initial landings, but we joined them during the winter. And that's when I had this appendicitis attack, which was, and the day before we were going to jump off from the beachhead, I had this appendicitis attack, and it took me in to operate on me. And the tent hospital was being shelled from time to time, and the guy that came in to shave me was a jittery and shell shock guy, and I'd learned a long time ago to shave away, if you're whittling, whittle away from your fingers. And he hadn't learned that yet. He was shaving. He took a double-edged razor blade and a pair of forceps, so there's about a 1/4 inch of naked razor blade sticking out there, and he started shaving me, and he kept looking up at the top of the tent. And every time a shell would go over, he'd jump. And every time he'd jump, I'd try to squeeze lower in that cot.
It's kind of making me just jump. Think about it. Could have had a big impact on my future.
Well, I kept thinking.
You might have been here.
I kept thinking, if he didn't think it happened, it'd be a funny story. But I didn't laugh at the time. Then that would be in the early '44. We finally broke out of Anzio then, and took Rome the day before the the Atlantic across the channel, so we didn't get any notice of that.
And you were a first sergeant, and you got a battlefield commission.
Yeah, I made first sergeant by that time. Then I got a field commission after Anzio, second lieutenant. And during the next winter, then we were up north, up in Leghorn, and crossing another river. Went through Leghorn and called to Florence and up through the mountains into Florence and got up to the top of the mountains that winter. Got stalled up there. Spent the winter up in the Apennines north of Florence, and cold and snow, kind of miserable. At that time we were young and didn't think too much about the weather at that stage. We'd been at it long enough. And then in the spring we broke out. This was spring of '45 now, and they were moving pretty fast up through France. We could lay up in those mountains though and look across and see the Alps, clear across the Po Valley, the tops of the snow-clad Alps, the peaks and the clear days, and figured we'd be up there the next winter. But thank goodness the war was over that spring. Then we broke out and raced across the Po Valley, and everything fell apart. And I was ready to do for rotation, so I came home within a week later, flew home through North Africa and South America, up through to Florida, and then trained home from there. So I had the summer, came into Vivian then in June of '45.
Was that when I met you?
And that's when I met you.
You were looking for Louise at that point.
I was looking for anything at that point. Louise was the first. I got off the train, and there she was, ready to pounce.
He claimed that any woman looked good to him, and I had a similar claim. I said that there had been no men around for the years that the war were going on, so I too was looking for anybody.
Anyway, I got the job of ferrying and escorting Louise and my sister, who were going to go to Indiana to my aunt's there to work at, try to get work in the factories, at Magnavox factory in Fort Wayne. So I got the job of escorting them back.
It's on train or in car?
A train, of course. We couldn't get battery tires.
And the song that was played on the train was "Sentimental Journey."
That was perfect.
Yeah, and then "Coming In on a Wing and a Prayer" is the other song I remember.
So I dropped them off in Indiana and reported back then to Texas, to Fort Sam Houston, and got checked out and overhauled, and then came home for a furlough, helped during the harvest. They were still in Indiana. I came home furlough, helped during the harvest, and then reported back, stopped off in Indiana, see them again, and got acquainted a little bit more, and went back to Belvoir, Virginia, with the engineers. I had a choice to go to Belvoir or Fort Lewis, Washington. At that time, made the choice. The war in Japan was still on, but thank goodness while I was home that second furlough in August, they dropped the atom bomb and the war was over, and so I reported back to get discharged.
You missed your opportunity to serve in the Pacific.
I could have had that golden opportunity.
I remember I was working at Magnavox when the war was over with Japan, and the big joke was, did you hear about Hirohito? He has atomic ache.
Oh.
Big joke. Well, anyway, then I went on to teach. I took journalism down at State College. And
well, of course, the war over, the job was folded, and I was back in school in Brookings then in the fall. Yeah.
And that's when you really started dating.
Yeah.
You knew each other.
So we met each other in 1 year, and a year later, I guess in March we were engaged, and in June we were married. And when we were married, we still couldn't get cars, so my brother took us to the bus, and we went by bus for our honeymoon, which is a big thing. We went all the way to Sioux Falls in between semesters because we were both in college.
Well, Sioux Falls is almost like Niagara Falls in principle, but the dimensions are a little different. The water goes over this bank, you see.
And what did we do when we were there? We went to a ball game.
Took her to a baseball game. Went to two of them, I think.
Presaged our future.
Yeah.
Very romantic.
And then
we lived in the barracks. First we lived in the trailer, and then we got into the barracks that they were putting up for student housing.
they had all kinds of married students coming back in. And,
I guess before they hadn't had married students. That was kind of unknown.
Yeah.